Sometimes the smallest stage hides the biggest turning point. And sometimes the right answer to the wrong question can change the world.
Twist, twist, twist of fate radio.
It was the late 1960s in Nashville, Tennessee. The stage lights were hot, the audience was restless, and a teenage girl stood nervously in her evening gown, waiting for her turn in a local beauty pageant. She wasn't from privilege. She wasn't the polished debutante type. In fact, she had borrowed her dress and barely had the confidence to walk out there. The other contestants had practiced routines, rehearsed smiles, polished answers. She was just hoping not to trip on stage. Backstage, she could hear the polite applause for the other girls. Some sounded rehearsed and refined, giving the kinds of answers you'd expect to hear in a beauty pageant. But this girl knew she didn't fit the mold. She had grown up with poverty, hardship, and a sense of being different. And now, in front of a crowd, all of it seemed to weigh on her shoulders. The pageant judges, sitting with clipboards in hand, had no idea they were about to set in motion one of the most extraordinary careers in American history. The moment came when the MC read aloud her question. Something simple, one of those generic pageant prompts designed to test poise more than substance. She took the microphone, cleared her throat, and answered, not with the polished, rehearsed response they expected, but with a voice that was warm, confident, and impossibly natural. It wasn't the answer that turned heads that night. It was the way she spoke. The voice carried weight, honesty, and emotion that made people lean in. It was as though she wasn't answering a pageant question. She was speaking directly to you. One man in the audience leaned in further than most. He wasn't a judge. He wasn't there for the gowns. He was a local radio DJ scouting the event. And what caught his attention wasn't beauty. It was sound. After the pageant, he approached her with a question of his own. Not about world peace or favorite hobbies, but would you like a job at the radio station? For a teenager from a small rural community, this was unthinkable. She had never imagined anyone would see her voice as a gift. But she said yes, and suddenly this girl, who had spent her childhood bouncing between hardship and struggle, was reading the news on air. The first time she put on those headphones and leaned into the microphone, something clicked. Oh boy, I know that feeling. Her voice, the same voice that had once been overlooked, now reached across Nashville every day. People heard her sincerity. They heard her presence. And little by little, they responded. From that single twist, the right answer at the right time, a career began to take shape. First radio, then television. She discovered she had a gift not just for speaking, but for connecting, for making people feel seen, for turning the lens toward human stories that mattered. There were setbacks, of course. There were times when her background, her appearance, even her gender and race, made others dismiss her. But she never let go of that voice, steady, compassionate, and real. Through years of persistence and relentless work, she climbed higher. The local girl in the borrowed gown became a reporter, then a talk show host. Then, against all odds, she transformed daytime television into something no one had seen before. Intimate, raw, and powerful conversations that could change hearts, and sometimes even the world. And that nervous teenager in the pageant, the one who thought she didn't belong on stage, her name was Oprah Winfrey. Sometimes the smallest stage becomes the biggest turning point, and one answer to one question gave us one of the most influential voices of our time. This has been Twist of Fate Radio. I'm Angela Clark. Until next time, remember, sometimes the smallest choices lead to the biggest consequences. Want to explore more stories like this? Visit twistoffateradio.com. There you can read more details about this story and others like it. Plus, you can submit your own Twist of Fate story to be considered for a future episode. You never know what twist of fate is coming next.